Hey, what's going on, guys? Time for our weekend Mook review. Today we're taking a look at another issue of Gundam Weapons. This is the Char Aznable special edition, so we're going to see a bunch of Char suits in here, as well as some other Zeon stuff. So if you guys are a fan, stick around. Again, big thank you to Riley for gifting these to me to share with you guys. Awesome. These Gundam Weapons books are older, but a lot of really great stuff in here, as you guys will see in today's video. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So like I said, this is the Char Aznable special edition. Going around here onto the back side, we've got Char's ZakuAurelius, and the list price down here for this, the MSRP of 1,429 yen. I still don't really understand why it's such an odd number. I guess that's just to do with the tax, but it says plus tax. Anyway, I don't know. Do one of you guys know? Can you answer that? But this is in typical Japanese format, which is like backwards for us Westerners. Opening up the dust jacket on this, and I believe this is the case with all the Gundam Weapons issues, is that the actual book cover will be all the text without the image, which is kind of interesting. It looks kind of cool. On the inside here, we do have another fold-out poster with this one. Take a look at that. It's just this really nice image there of the Zeong from the front, just flying through space there. Very cool. This is just a, let's see, 3-section, it's not exactly 3 even section, but anyway, on the other side here, Char Aznable with the mobile suits line up there. So Char's Gundam, the Zeong, the Gelgoog, the Dom, the ZakuAurelius, and of course the classic Zaku 2 right there on the front. And these are not all modeled by the same persons, they're modeled by different people. I'm guessing that these are in order here, so that's kind of interesting that they got them each from different modelers. Did I say 3 sections? Yeah, it is 3 sections, right? Alright, so let's get into it here. Very cool kind of image there of the perfect Zeong right there. And I imagine we'll probably see one of those in here. I don't remember. Let's see. Let me see if I can get a date. This one's modeled by Max Watanabe, by the way. Okay, so this came out in 2002, so that should give us an idea of when this came out, what kits were available at the time, so that is pretty early. On this first page here of this hangar scene with the Zeong and the Char's Gelgoog there, Char right here in the foreground. Very cool image of the hangar scene there, which we've seen animated actually more recently. This is a 1/12 scale scratch build model by Chieri of Char, which does look really nice there. That's super cool. Of course, there's different garage kits and stuff like that available. Although I think Char, if Bandai ever comes back to their Figurized Labo line, which I wish that they would, because I do really enjoy that line. Hopefully they will make a Char Aznable kit in that line someday. But all right, so let's get into it here. The Zeong MG kit. So this is the MG 100 scale master grade modeled by Moto Osumi. So different from the one that we have on the front, and you can tell kind of right away it's got different markings on it. This one much less in the way of markings, so even though this is the master grade, it does look extremely low on the detail, especially here on the shoulders. I mean, you can see these sections with huge wide open spaces. But again, I mean, just a reminder to you guys, sometimes less is more. You can have, a professionally built model here featured in a magazine, featured prominently in a big magazine, and it just has to be modeled really well. It doesn't necessarily need to have panel lines and details all over. I mean, that certainly is something that we've seen a lot in a lot more modern builds, but it wasn't always that was the preferred style. On these couple pages where we've got a lot of detail shots, we do also have some work in progress shots kind of thrown in the mix. So you can see some there on the head, here on the body. So definitely some details were added to this kind of here and there, and all of the modifications aren't necessarily details. It looks like some of it is kind of either or, a little bit of adding, a little bit of taking away, things like that. Pretty nice looking build there. Never built the master grade or high grade Zeong. I have built the real grade, which is amazing, but the master grade is kind of a classic, right? Maybe someday we'll have to get one and build it just for the experience. I'm not really that big of a fan of the Zeong, but I loved the real grade kit, so if it's a cool kit, I'll like it. So, and the master grade is one that I know is pretty popular. You can see some cool details added kind of in the arms. So you just use some plot plate there in the arms, also some plot plate or putty, it looks like, to fill in some parts there kind of in and around the hands as well. You can see the upskirt shot there with all the details underneath, which, for the time, for master grade kits, I mean, there's a lot of really nice detail there, but just compared to the RG, where the especially internal detail up underneath the skirt is just incredible. All right, up next here we've got Max's Zeong, which is the one from the cover art. Once again, they're facing off with the Gundam, and this is again the master grade build here for Max, so we'll see what's kind of similar or different between these builds. Obviously, it's going to look pretty similar. You can see immediately there's some striking differences in that. You can tell like the shoulders are differently shaped, the head is larger, the shoulders are smaller compared to the first one. Let me see if I can set this up for you guys for like a quick flip back and forth, so you guys can kind of see the difference there between the two. Not only that, but the colors you can see. Now that could be a little bit just due to like the color grading of the photos themselves, but assuming that that was done properly, which I imagine that it was, you can tell Max's definitely has a lot more kind of purple tone to it, where this one is a lot more just kind of neutral gray blue, and this one's a lot more kind of colorful, which I think fits Max's style. So here you can see some of the modifications done on the head. Definitely made it longer top to bottom there. It's extended up and also extended down. It looks like it's extended out to the side a little bit, so it's slightly wider, but not necessarily all that much. So definitely some cool modifications here. You can see some more work in progress on that, comparing the modified to the original version, so you can kind of see side by side what work was done. Differently detailed, but it's the same kit, detailed underneath, but you know, it's interesting how it looks different in Max's. Again, to compare the two for you guys, you can kind of get an idea of how different colors used and different tones used, because this one looks like it's not a whole lot of like metallic colors as far as I can tell. I mean, there is like the thruster bells. It's kind of hard to tell in the pictures, but Max's certainly looks more kind of metallic-y anyway. But all right, so we got a few more photos of that, and here is the shoulder reshaping like I was talking about. There's kind of some highlighting on that. Nice big photo over here on this side. You can see just that perfect silky smooth finish on everything. Looks really nice. A few more photos here with the Gundam. I'm guessing that's the, let's see. It looks like that's saying that's the HGUC Gundam and the MG Zeong, but it's kind of a weird size between the two. I wouldn't think that the HGUC Gundam would be that big compared to the Zeong, which I know would be pretty large, but I don't know. Anyway, the size was kind of throwing me off there, but that's what it says. Alright, the perfect Zeong. Now this one is modeled by Junji Funato. So this is the master grade conversion. I'm guessing that the perfect Zeong master grade kit was maybe not available at that time. It's not out yet. So that means that the legs are a conversion kit or scratch build. Let's see. I'm not sure what kind of conversion kits were out and available at that time, but there's not really a whole lot of work in progress. Oh, there is. Okay, so there's some work in progress photos, a couple small work in progress photos over here. And what it looks like is that those are maybe feet from a Gelgoog and like heavily modified a lot. And for the most part, like the parts for the sides and the front of the legs, a lot of what you're seeing there with the legs looks to be like mostly all scratch built. And there's frame in there. I'm not sure what that frame is also from. It may be from just like a, maybe that is also from like a master grade Gelgoog or something. Let's see. Oh, okay. So the leg frame is actually from the perfect grade Gundam Mark II, which is pretty interesting. So the PG Gundam Mark II leg frame was used for this. And so that means those feet parts are actually probably from the PG Zaku, I guess. Oh, so that's pretty wild. All right, so there's that. It looks very cool. I think if I was gonna build one, I would probably want to pick up the MG version of the perfect Zeong just because it looks cool with legs, I think. But all right, next we have this weird guy. This is the Chiseroga. I'm not sure if I've ever seen this model kit before. Maybe I have, like in passing or something. It does look like sort of vaguely familiar, but it definitely doesn't look like something I've ever seen that often. So this is a MG Zeong variation number 2, it says here. Oh, I guess the perfect Zeong was the variation number 1. This one's modeled by Kazuaki Kojima, and it's certainly very interesting. So it's got like a lot of similarities to the Zeong. As you can see, like it's got like the same arms essentially, and like the torso is very similar, but rather than a huge skirt section, it's got a much smaller one, kind of much more normal sized, and the feet, really huge feet, and it's got like these thrusters. Let's see if there's a photo showing the underside of the feet. Not really. Well, here you can see up in this photo right up here, you can kind of tell just by the photo. So it's kind of got like the elements of the Zeon, but rather than having like the huge thrusters underneath the skirt, it's got them at the bottom of the feet, which is interesting. And then obviously these big massive cannons up on the top of the shoulder, which is pretty interesting, pretty unique. The head, it looks more like sort of like a Gelgoog kind of head, except it's very tall, very strangely proportioned and everything. And yeah, it's got these massive thrusters up there in the shoulders as well. Really interesting, unique design. I've I'm not sure if I've ever seen this before, really, which is interesting. I'm sure some of you guys have, and some of you guys have seen this around, and maybe you've seen some other custom builds of this, so this one would have to be just a complete scratch build, but let's see it. This is a 100 scale master grade Zeong conversion, so he used the master grade Zeong, which, I mean, like I said, can use like some of these parts, like those skirt parts would be the same parts, but he's just used them, kind of cut them up differently. And the arms, the torso. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of this is taken from that kit, but obviously there's just a ton of modification done. I wish there was more work in progress photos for this, because of how unique it is. But alright, let's just move on then to Char's Zaku 2. This one is also by Moto Osumi. This one's interestingly the 100 scale master grade Zaku 2 F2 conversion. So it's an F2 and he converted it back to the just regular 06S. So that's kind of interesting. I guess most of the modification on this looks like it would pretty much be having to do with like the arms and the chest, because he basically stuck with the legs of the F2. Looks like, kind of just taking a look at this back and forth between them. But definitely, and yeah, the skirt sections are also pretty heavily modified, but the arms and the chest would be modified quite a bit to get this. So I'm kind of wondering why he did that. I mean, I love the Zaku 2 F2. It's definitely my favorite version of the Zaku 2. So I mean, like using the F2 as the basis for any other build of the Zaku that you're going to do, I'm all for that, but this is very interesting. It looks really cool. I like it a lot, especially with the legs here. I was saying that the legs were mostly unmodified, but there is a very noticeable modification here that I really, really like, where this lower section of the leg, the way it goes up like that, is definitely different from the original kit. You can kind of see, it's going to be hard for you guys to see down this little photo down here. But yeah, normally it's not like that, and that's a really cool look there for the top of the lower legs right there for that. So really cool. Lots of work in progress photos, and you can just kind of see how much work was done, like I said, to convert that from the F2. So really interesting, really unique take on the Zaku 2. Just kind of goes to show how versatile the Zaku 2 design is, how we have so many different versions and so many different ways that you can customize it and modify it, where it's still immediately recognizable. I mean, like, to the lay person, or even to somebody who, you know, is fairly familiar with Gundam, if you just ask them, okay, what is that? It's the Zaku 2. Even though there's a lot of kind of very unique aspects to the build. All right. Next here, we've got the 1/100 scale plastic kit of the Char's Zeong. So this must have been before the master grade was released here. And I mean, you can immediately tell by these proportions that this is based on the older kit. It's a good looking build here of the old 1/100 scale kit. So this kit would have been one from the early 80s. That's heavily modified in order to get it to look as good as it is looking here. A lot of touch-ups and tweaks kind of to the proportions and to the details and everything like that to get it looking this good. Definitely the master grade, I think, is going to be looking so much better once that came out, but for the old kit, I mean, it's looking pretty good. It's definitely got that big diaper on right there, and like the really short arms. Like, it's about like the older proportions. It's very wide in the hips, wide in the torso. The arms are really short, and it kind of can't really do a whole lot except for like just do this one stance here, but he's got a little bit of modifications to it. Let's see. Okay, this is just blowing my mind here for a second, because I turn the page and I see, oh, it's got this full, very nice looking frame and very detailed frame. And what was the deal with that? I thought that this was just based off of the old 1/100 scale kit, not the MG. And yeah, the MG didn't come out until a year later, in 2003. And so I'm looking at this thinking, that must be all entirely scratch built. And that is incredible. That is a better inner frame than what we have in the MG, for one. Better frame than what we have in the RG as well, I would say. So this is what I guess appears to me, I guess this is just an entirely scratch built inner frame, which is incredible looking. It looks amazing. Wow. That's pretty amazing. It looks so good too. Now perhaps, I'm looking for any work in progress photos, and there's no work in progress photos on the frame, unfortunately. Perhaps that's some sort of garage kit? I don't think so, though. I don't believe that is. I mean, I wish that there was more photos of this, and I'll just have to see if I can translate any of this. Yeah, I mean, just from translating a couple of these sections here, it seems like this is entirely scratch build. It notes like how he based the details for the frame. He based it off of perfect grade kits details on their frames, which even in 2002, there wasn't a whole lot of perfect grade kits available to base your details off of, but that's what was kind of his basis for designing the frame of this. But man, that's pretty incredible. So he also had to make it so that all this armor actually fits on it, which is pretty awesome. So wow, so it's not only, looks good, but it also has to be like an actual functional inner frame for all of the armor of the old 100 scale kit. That's super impressive. Wow, hats off to you. All right, wow. Okay, next up, Mototsugu Sato's Master Grade Rickdom here. So this one is based, I think it was 2001, I believe, if I remember correctly, or 1999 actually, when the Master Grade Dom came out. And so I guess the Rickdom would have been shortly after that, I believe. So this one does look pretty cool. Quite interesting that it's a much darker color scheme here for this. Really interesting kind of antenna there. I guess that's an optional antenna because most of the photos don't have it with that antenna on it, but it's got that big, very sort of, almost looks like a kind of precursor to the Nightingale's antenna there on the head. But yeah, much darker, really heavy pre-shading on this and really dark colors. Quite interesting take on a Char's design. I mean, it's still pretty immediately recognizable as the Char color scheme, but with those really dark, heavy colors, it's kind of interesting looking. All right, next we have the Gelgoog. This one also is the 100 scale Master Grade kit by Keita Yagyu. So again, obviously this would be the 1.0. The 2.0 was still quite a few years away at that point. But man, after taking a look at a previous issue which had a lot of Gelgoogs in it, and the more I look at it, I really want to get my hands on a 1.0 Master Grade Gelgoog. So hopefully that'll get reprinted at some point and I'll be able to snag one up, because even though, I mean, obviously the 2.0 is going to be better in pretty much every way. I mean, there's definitely, at least for me as a big fan of the Gelgoog's design, I think the 1.0 does actually look really quite nice in a lot of ways. Now this is obviously modified, so it's going to be, looking even better than just the stock kit. Of course, you can see some of the work in progress here, just on the arms, for example. You can see all the white bits there is all like modifications that are made to the proportions and details and everything. So really good looking build here. Again, it's kind of similar like we saw before. A really good example of less is more on the details. It's got hardly any panel lines on it, just a couple here and there. Hardly any detail on the armor, but a really nice looking model there. Some more work in progress here on the parts of the legs and the feet here. It looks like the feet are built out quite a bit to make those larger than what was on the original kit. You can see those are expanded out probably about like 1.5 or 2 millimeters, kind of all the way around, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is quite a bit of work to do that in that way. Here we have from, not Max Watanabe, but Masafumi Watanabe. Here, the 100 scale Master Grade model of Char's Gundam, the RX-78 Gundam. So yeah, I'm just kind of trying to look and see which version of the RX-78 So this is based off of the 1.5 Master Grade, because yeah, it definitely doesn't look like the 1.0 Master Grade. The 1.0 Master Grade is pretty easily recognizable just by the design of that. This one definitely looks a lot nicer and really good looking build. It's really interesting how this is painted, and I wonder if, I guess it's just the photography, but like it almost looks like it has like some sort of weathering is what we would call it, but it's more just kind of like a shine added to it, or like a kind of weathering added to it to make it look extra shiny on it. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's just like a really interesting finish on this. So what I guess it is it's a really thick, like semi-gloss, because it's not super glossy and it's definitely not matte coat. It seems it's like a semi-gloss, but it looks like the semi-gloss is like really super thick on it, so that it gives it somewhat of like a translucent appearance. It almost looks like it's just the bare plastic, like it's unpainted, kind of like how the plastic kind of has that very slight translucent kind of look to it, sort of. It's really interesting how that this looks like that, but I mean, I'm sure it's not, I'm sure it is fully painted, but it gives the appearance of an unpainted kit almost, but really nice finish on that. It's pretty interesting finish, and so it's a shame that we don't have more work in progress photos or anything for that. There's a little bit over here kind of showing some of the modifications to the arm. There's a comparison photo with the painted and unpainted kit, but that's quite interesting. All right, so that's it for Char's suits. Now we're getting into Zaku variations, MG Zaku F2 and HGUC Zaku 06S. So some different versions here. Again, as a big fan of the Zaku F2, I'm here for it. Let's go. Zaku F2. This one's the 100 scale Master Grade, modeled by Kaine or Kane. I'm not sure. It's there in English, and you can never tell if it's there in English. I'm not sure if they're going for the Japanese pronunciation or like how we would pronounce it in English. But this is obviously the EFSF variant of the Zaku F2, where it's mostly just a color scheme, really. I think it does have a slightly different weapon just because this one has the bullpup machine gun. And there you can see the GPO one there in the background of this image, though, looking very cool. It's got some nice texture added up here on the shoulder part as well, so not kind of around everywhere. Mostly it's all pretty smooth, but some nice texture added onto that. And really nice shading done on all the white sections, which looks really nice. Here we've got the desert type version of the Zaku 2. This one is also still based off of the F2. This is the first one that we've seen so far, and I'm not sure how much more we're going to see throughout the rest of this issue, but this is the first one that we've seen with really kind of any weathering on it, and even still, it's very slight weathering on this build. But this looks really cool. Zaku 2, the F2 here looks really nice in these desert colors. Some interesting modifications here done on this, and also like these parts added onto the backpack. There it looks like, I believe, right? And again, a really interesting modification here done onto the legs, where at a glance, it doesn't look like there's really anything different, but you can see right down here on the lower part of the leg, it's kind of altered slightly to make this look more kind of like an armor panel rather than, I guess, like how it just kind of curves up and in there. You modified this up in a way, so it's a really cool, just very slight, not that noticeable alteration to that design right down there, but it looks really awesome. That's interesting. Got all of its different weapons and everything. Here we've got the Nguyen Bitter Use. Yes. I believe this is one of the ones that we did get a P Bandai kit of more recently, like a few years ago. I believe, is that true? It sounds familiar though, the name. So I think that this is something that we did get a P Bandai, just like color variant of the Zaku F2 here of that guy. Although, yeah, now I'm second guessing myself. I'm not sure. All right, this is a 100 scale plastic kit, master grade Zaku to F2 conversion modeled by Yukinari Nakayama of the Draw C here, obviously. So the Draw C has essentially like the arms and torso and hip section of the Zaku 2 F2. And then obviously the legs are replaced with these big, huge binders there, and up on the shoulders has these parts. So in 100 scaling, obviously this is all scratch built, and it looks awesome. That's pretty incredible. The HGUC kit is really cool. I have built that, and that's really nice. Really very unique build, of course, just because of the design. But, oh, that's it. That's all we have for that. But it's a shame because, I understand it's a relatively obscure design, not as popular as something like the Zeong or something, so we're not going to get pages and pages on that. But it would have been nice to have at least, one or two more pages on that to show some more about it. But it's pretty incredible. I mean, like all the greeblies and everything added here, all the details on the back side of the shield even. They're highlighting there, which looks awesome. So a lot of really great work done on that. Super detailed, really nice 100 scale version of the Draw C. We got the Gabby Hazard use version of the Zaku 2 here. This is almost the color scheme that I went with for the recent Trash to Treasure series, where I was working on the Master Grade Zaku. And kind of the only reason that I didn't is just because the Gabby Hazard version of the Zaku of the high mobility type has the different covers here on the side of the leg, and that's not what I had. So could have just painted it in this color scheme and just not had those extra parts on the side of the leg for this version of the high mobility type. But I just decided, well, I'll just stick with something which is kind of more canon, as it's just a very slight difference. But I do love this color scheme for the Gabby Hazard version of the Zaku 2. That black and brown color scheme is super cool, super unique, and on this kit that does look really nice. And this is also based on the Zaku 2 F2, which is pretty incredible because, I mean, there's just a ton of work that had to go into that. So I'm guessing that there is some kit bashing involved as well, like those parts for the legs had to have been taken from the high mobility type MG and the backpack as well. So like partly like kit bashing, but then also some scratch building. So very interesting. Like a lot of modification and scratch building had to have been done there, like on the torso parts especially. But yeah, man, the F2 just looks really nice in those color schemes. Now it's just making me want to make a conversion, like taking the high mobility type legs and backpack and then adding them onto a Zaku 2 F2 body. The ideas. All right, this one is also based off of the MG F2, and this is the desert type Rommel use. Very interesting build here for like the shoulder shield having all these like more spikes but less, definitely looking like a Super Mario turtle shell there, and then this extended and enlarged snoot and the bits on the top of the head. Really interesting design here for this one, and this very long gun that it has. I'm guessing that's what kind of gun is that? So yeah, so this is a long range rifle based on the Zaku machine gun, which you can see over here like amongst all the weapons. That's pretty interesting. He basically like took the Zaku machine gun, cut off everything at like in front of the main body of that, and also cut off the back end of it, and then just made this really long barrel for it. So quite an interesting design here for this one. The snoot, man, that's a snoot, and just a lot of really interesting modifications and customization to this. This is another variant which I believe I have seen this one before, like online. I've never seen an actual model kit of it, and obviously there's no model kit of it that exists. This is a custom build, but I'm not sure if I've ever seen one that's been made. But wow, and even like the knee armor, wow, a lot of really interesting modifications on that one. All right, here's another really unique one, the prototype Zaku, the MS-04. This is modeled by Ryu Matsuda, and this one is based off of the Master Grade Zaku 1. So switching up a little bit from the F2 type, this is the Zaku 1, which we're still waiting for a 2.0 of the Zaku 1. Those of us who are Zaku 1 fans, I guess, hoping that we'll get a 2.0 Master Grade kit of that at some point. But this is a really interesting build here of the prototype Zaku. So it's got like, yeah, very interesting aspects here to the design. A lot of customization. I mean, look at down here, there's work in progress photos showing the unpainted state, and you can see there's hardly any of like whatever yeah, I guess it was the Zaku 2. Yeah, I guess it was the Zaku 1 that was used as the base kit, but I mean, there's hardly any of that you can see there. It's just all like plot plate and putty everywhere. So really interesting, unique build there for that one. Another one here, the Zaku Diver. Another really quite interesting one. This one, I'm not as into quite as much for this one personally. I don't know, but the aquatic versions of like the Zaku and like the Zaku, was it the Diver Zaku? Is that right? Yeah, I don't know. They don't really do it for me quite as much as other versions like the space and desert and ground type versions, stuff like that. But pretty cool design here on this. Even like a screen there for the scope for the weapon. That looks pretty cool. There's like a construction type Zaku 1 over here that's together with, which I don't think is going to be featured in here. Doesn't look like it, but we may see that in there. But pretty interesting, and again, a lot of work done on that. This one is the Zaku Cannon, of course, the 100 scale Master Grade kit of just the Zaku 2 converted to the Zaku Cannon. So again, we did eventually get a Master Grade Zaku Cannon kit, but not until later on. This one's modeled by Matsuaki Misaki. So as a fan of the Zeon mobile suit designs, different versions of the Zaku and like different MSV designs, I love this. It's really cool seeing these different MSV designs in here and different versions of the Zaku, so this is very cool. This one is now HGUC, so I think the rest of these probably then are going to be all 1/44 scale, we'll see, but now we're getting into some 1/44 scale stuff. This is the, it is the HGUC, right? So HGUC modeled by Yukinari Nakayama. That's pretty nice, and you can see some work in progress there on that. Here we've got the Garma's custom version, which of course has the different antenna on the head and also the little Vulcan on the head. Yeah, the antenna is slightly different. I had to double take because I was not sure of myself there. I thought the antenna was different. Yeah, the antenna is slightly different on that. It's kind of more reinforced there at the bottom. It seems like something like that. And we also have a 1/44 scale DOP down here in the corner for Garma Zabi use. That's the EX model there as well. So I guess he built and painted that to go along with that, which does look really cool. Here we've got one of the Black Tri-Stars customs here. This one's the HGUC Zaku 2. High mobility type Zaku 2 here for the Black Tri-Stars use. Another really cool design. Really nice and clean build there of that one. Cool image up here as well. That one looks really nice. Got a few more images there of that showing, so these are different ones. The Mush use, Guya use, and Ortiga use. Kind of interesting how they were spelling the names back in the day. Alright, then a little bit here at the end, Mobile Suit Gundam Side Story 0080, Unknown Bogeys. So this will be interesting. Those look quite unique designs there for that. So this is, again, something I don't think I've ever have heard of this before. Unknown Bogeys. Out of standard Insanity Red. So let's see if there's information actually talking about what these mobile suits are. I don't know, but Goblin Brothers, no Canoe. So I'm guessing these are like scratch builds, or like custom builds, I should say. Sorry, like custom builds that were done, and then a story was made about them as like this kind of just little side story. So it's like this little novelization, like a photo novel here. So That's pretty interesting. This is something that I just don't think that they really do anymore. They used to do more of this in the past, these like kind of photo novels. So that's what we have for like Gundam Sentinel, for example, I believe as well. Really interesting how this mobile suit, which is like a version of, it's sort of like a mix between the Gelgoog and Camphor sort of looking in a way, but it's red and has this like scythe weapon there. That's really weird. There's not any photo of that at the front. Let's see if there's some more photos of these, because all these photos are cool, like really stylistic photos for like telling the story, but as far as like seeing the model kits, can't really see the kits very well. So let's see, hopefully we'll get some more of those. Looks like we will. So here's the Dom Goblins. This is based off of the Master Grade. You can see heavily customized, a lot of cloth added into this, like cloth covers at the arms and thighs, which is quite interesting. I like the little pinstripes there on the front of the chest. It's kind of cool. Not a big fan of the chain though. I don't think that looks really good. I don't know. Chains is really hard to pull off on scale models of this scale, like 144 and 100 scale models. Kind of really difficult to do. Here it says, "We love violence" on the shield there, on this very interesting spiked shield. Very edgy, very much like, I don't know, sort of Mad Max looking, but not dirty enough. Interesting that they have these kind of designs that seem like they would look even more interesting, pretty like heavily weathered or at least dirtied up, but they're quite clean looking, which doesn't really seem to fit the design very well, but they are pretty interesting custom builds. Okay, here's that one. It is it is the Gelgoog. So Gelgoog Cyclone Edge, I guess is the name of it. Very interesting head design. It's got these big massive bunny ears on it. I guess there's 3 different versions here. So those all look really, really unique. So the one has like these 2 scythe weapons that I guess connect together to make this double-ended one like that. Another one has the Camphor's weaponry. So I was saying like that it looked like it was very similar to the Camphor. It looks like the torso on these is based on the Camphor's torso, and some of the shoulders as well on them. So it's kind of a mix, like Gelgoog with elements of the Camphor in there and just some very unique design. So you have like a melee combat version, a sniper type, and a heavy weapons type. Essentially, it kind of looks like what we've got going on with that. So would make for a good build fighters team here, I guess. Sort of a precursor to the EZSR team, kind of. But I guess there's no I guess the sniper type, I guess, would sort of be like the reconnaissance version, I guess, sort of. But anyway, pretty unique builds there. If you like them edgy, very edgy. All right, so the Blue Dead Crows. This is a 100 scale kit based on the Master Grade Gym, because of course there was no and still no Master Grade Blue Destiny Gundam, but I guess that was this is supposed to be sort of a variation of that. And so you can see, pretty interesting build here. It's got the Goof Customs shield machine gun, but it's got 2 Gatling guns on there. The shield Gatling gun. The binders up at the back are quite interesting, sort of like prototype version of the Shinanjus. It looks almost kind of like that. Really interesting builds. Wow, quite unique, definitely. And there's a couple more of the other 2 variants down there. All right, so that's kind of most everything there for this issue. The last part here is going to be some articles where it's just going to be a bunch of text, and this would all be really great and interesting information, I'm sure, as this is like text from the builders about their models. So of like the main featured kits that we saw at the start, which are kind of like the theme for this issue, Char, Aznable's mobile suits. There's going to be write-ups from the modelers about their works in here. It looks like some of the other ones here as well. Okay, I wasn't expecting there would be ones for some of the different like MSV Zaku stuff, but there is for some of our different Zaku builds that we have. So you can read more here about the Drasi or the Gabby Hazards, Zaku 2, etc., etc. So that's pretty cool. A lot of different text here, and then some about that side story in here as well. The unknown Bogeys. Yeah, quite interesting. All right. So that's going to do it for this issue, guys. A lot of interesting stuff in there if you're a Zeon fan, I guess. 1 Year War era, and slightly beyond that as well. We went into 0080 there also a little bit, which is very cool. So that's it for today's issue, guys. Again, thank you to Riley for gifting these issues of Gundam Weapons to me, that I can share them with you guys and add them to my collection. Very cool. A lot of really great stuff to see in there, even though this is from all the way back in 2002. So a lot of this stuff we do now that were like scratch builds and custom builds and stuff that we saw in here, we do actually have model kits of now, which is nice, but it just kind of goes to show all the really great work that you can do with some pretty advanced modeling techniques there. But that's going to be it for today's issue, guys. Check out some different model kits and stuff for yourself at USA Gundam Store. The link is down in the video description below, as well as, if you do want to get into customization, painting, tools, all that stuff that you guys need is also there on the site. So check all that out. Till next time, guys, if you want to like and subscribe, really appreciate all the support. Hope you all have a great day. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.